So, a week after Let's Go Washington launched an initiative campaign aimed at repealing the newly passed income tax, the organization tells me today they have never had a response. This many people reaching out to them in this short period of time, just a week since they launched, saying, "We want to be a part. How do I get petitions? How can I help with this effort?" It's been an overwhelming response. I didn't get any specific numbers. They haven't released those yet. Simply to say they've had an overwhelming response, nothing like they've ever seen before. This is IP 26-645. That's the initiative number. The IP stands for Initiative to the People, 26 because the year is 2026-645. So their goal is to get at least 309,000 valid voter signatures in the next 44 days. So they had 51 days from launch date. We're a week in, so 44 days remaining. But really, their goal is to get a lot more than that. They want to get something close to 400,000 or so to account for duplicate voter signatures or people that are not registered voters and can't sign that petition. Those folks would get thrown out, or those signatures would get thrown out by the Secretary of State's office. So the goal is to get way more than you need to account for everything that gets invalidated. The Building Industry Association of Washington is partnering with Let's Go Washington, really helping them with the signature gathering. And I had a conversation this morning with BIAW's Executive Vice President, Greg Lane. And he explained to me why they are so motivated to be a part of this. He says it's not just about their Building Industry Association members, who are many of them impacted in their business capacity, but he says he has concerns for this eventually affecting all Washingtonians.
This is a position our members have had since, since this whole issue came up, and it's for a number of different reasons. The first one is we know that it's an economic development killer. People who drive this economy, who create jobs in this economy, are going to be moving from our state, and so it's just bad overall for economic development and job growth here in the state of Washington. So that's one big reason. We do have a number of members who it will apply to. It's not a large percentage of our membership, but there are some who will fall into it because of the way that it's structured with the pass through LLCs and the way businesses are structured. And the way that construction works is, projects often take multiple years to complete. And so for a builder who's, in an LLC, for example, and they're doing a project for 3 years, they'll lose money. They won't make any money for 3 years. And then suddenly, they'll sell the project at the end when it's all done, and that's where they'll make their money. So for, a couple years, they're making their money over a 3-year period. It, averages out, it's going to be, say 500 to $700,000 a year, maybe something like that. But they're going to get it all at once at the third year, and then they're going to get taxed on it because it comes in 1 year. And so they may not pay the tax every single year, but because of the way construction works and the way that the compensation in construction works, they're going to end up having to pay this tax. But most important is that we know that this is only the beginning. And, once they get the income tax, if the initiative doesn't pass and they're able to get it through the courts, and the courts say, give it its blessing, and it gets implemented, we know that that number, that $1 million figure, is going to come down, and it's going to come down, and it's going to hit more and more people, more and more small business people over time, once they get that nose under the tent. And so that's the biggest reason why we're in opposition to it, is because we know that ultimately more and more Washington families and Washington employers are going to have to pay this tax over time. And so those are the reasons why we've opposed it from the beginning. And this isn't new to us, and we're strongly supportive of the initiative. We will be actively working with Let's Go Washington to collect signatures and get it qualified for November.
Meantime, the Economic Opportunity Institute, in support of the income tax, told me last month that they support this as part of the solution toward correcting Washington's regressive tax code. So I asked EOI's Policy and Research Associate Annie Kuklik. Do you have any concerns about whether or not this tax is constitutional? Of course, we have a legal challenge that was filed last month in Klickitat County Superior Court that is moving ahead. At the same time, we have now this initiative drive that hopes to be on the ballot this year.
That's going to be ultimately up to the courts to decide. It's not our role to determine that. You can look at the history of Washington and how it's been interpreted. You can look at other states and how property is interpreted, because ultimately it comes down to the definition of how you define property and income, and if income is defined as property. So it will be up to the courts to decide that. We are anticipating a ballot fight, right? People will have a say in determining whether they want this to stay or not. We don't know if that's going to come this year in 2026 or if it'll come in 2027 next year, but we're anticipating that.
And again, Greg Lane at BIAW, he said that they're hearing from their members and just his circle of influence that people are pretty upset about the way this income tax was passed during the 2026 legislative session. He described it as overwhelming frustration about how lawmakers pushed this through, attaching that necessity clause to make it referendum proof.
The overall negativity that I've heard toward the income tax, it's very similar to the gas ban in that sense, in that the public is really in opposition to this. And so I don't think we're going to see as many problems, and we're going to see a lot of just excitement and support coming out to sign the initiative and get it qualified for the ballot. And I would compare it very much to the reaction we had to the natural gas ban when we were out collecting signatures. No, we really didn't come up with a whole lot of that type of opposition that Brian faced with the other two initiatives. And I think the income tax initiative would be very similar to that in terms of public reaction. They really, I think, broke the public trust on this issue, and a lot of the reaction isn't, I mean, a lot of it, of course, is in response to just having an income tax, but the way they went about it, in really kind of thumbing their nose at the public, and the public opposition for an income tax also, I think, really fires people up, and it's going to be seen in the response to signing the initiative.
So from today, this May 19th, they have just 44 days remaining to gather those signatures. But again, Let's Go Washington told me today they've never had a response like this for any of their initiative campaigns in the past. So we'll see how this all shakes out in the coming days.